Henry Gross sent an amazing story about his dad and baseball. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Music. This is the last part of our 11-part conversation with the great Henry Gross. Henry, thank you so much for spending 2.5 hours. I know it wasn't supposed to be that long of an interview, but I don't know. We just got along and he could really tell a great story. I've said this before in this series that if I lived next door to Henry Gross, I'd be knocking on his door every day just to chat about stuff. He has an amazing mind and a real appreciation for the history of music and comedy, which I appreciate as well. I lost my father a few years ago. He was 87 years old. And even though in the 70s I worked side by side with him, my older brother was running the streets too much. He wasn't interested, and my younger brother was too young. I was that middle son that worked as a lumberjack with my dad. And I was with him every single day. But we never really got very close. He was from that generation of men that hold their cards close to their vest. And they're not warm and cuddly people, right? They didn't grow up in the Oprah generation. So I understood that ever so disgruntledly about my dad. I wanted to get close to him, but I really, really couldn't. Henry Gross told me a story about his father and a specific baseball game. It was a story that I could really relate to, and maybe you too. It all takes part in his one-man show called One Hit Wonders.
But the fact is that maybe I have spent the last 20 years rewriting the history of me, both as a human being and as an artist. And maybe that's the most worthwhile thing. People that came to the One Hit Wonder show, their heads are turned around because it's not what you think. Yeah. It's funny. There's funny things in it, but the point of the show, I talk about this baseball game my dad took me to. It was the only day I ever got to spend with him. And I don't like to jump to this because it belies the whole show that this is the centerpiece of the show. But I talk about my dad throughout the show and my relationship with him and you know, the Dream, Gil Hodges, Woodstock, hit records, no hit records, you know, top 10 records, and then all of a sudden the record company going whatever and sliding through and then trying to reinvent myself, going to Nashville, reinvent myself. And it is a great story. And I put it together with a great playwright who helped me. I wrote the thing, but I had a great director named Ed Greenberg from New York who was RADA trained, and he's a brilliant guy. And I was gifted to meet him. And we came up with a show that the theater people like in New York. But anyway, I'm doing this thing about, and at the end of it, I talk about this game, which is the only day I really ever spent alone with my dad was at this, because he was a druggist, and 7 days a week a pharmacy was open, and it was a little drugstore. He was in there at 8 in the morning, and he came home at 11 at night. And Sundays they closed, at 5. The drugstore was like open all the time in those days, in the 50s. People don't, now the Walgreens closes at 10 o'clock. No, they were open, and they opened at 8 in the morning. And it was just him and my grandfather. Talked to my dad about how much that game meant to me.
Right.
Because it was, and I remember every detail about the game. The stands, the color of the grass, the scoreboard, the smell of the hot dogs, the beer, everything. He got me a ball, I told you, autographed yesterday, I told you, a ball autographed by the whole Dodger team. I mean, I got that ball sitting in my closet. It's like, it meant everything to me. But my father was from that other generation. I mean, 4 years in the Army and the war, and if I said, "Hey, Pop, remember that ball game you took me to?" You'd have thought, you didn't go there with my father. He didn't wax. I knew he loved me, but you didn't get that way with my dad. You just didn't do it. He didn't go there. Yeah. He loved me. I knew he loved me. Anything can I help you, son? I mean, it's like I got that. But, you didn't say, "Hey, remember that day we went to the bar?" There was no Hollywood in my dad.
Yeah.
He was a work shoe, not a Gucci shoe.
Yeah.
So when he died, I had moved to Nashville in '86, just moved to come down to Nashville and rented an apartment. And he died, and I went back home. And my mom told me that he had left an envelope with my name on it because he had a heart condition and he knew he didn't have long. And I opened the envelope and I almost died. In the envelope were the tickets to that game, the ticket stubs to that game.
Oh my God.
Now, put that, you only thought you did an interview with me. So,
oh my God.
What do you want, Eddie? What is your life to you? So at that moment, my life changed.
Yeah.
Forever.
That's amazing.
Well, that's a true story.
You're
And
making
so then
me
I'm
tear
doing
up,
this
man.
show. Well, this is it. Everyone in the audience does. And so this is what I'm selling now. And nobody knows it but you and 3,000 other people. And that's what I'm doing with my life, is I'm sharing that story. Because it's not about me. It's about him. And it's about this life. And it's about all of us. It's about what schmucks we are with this golden opportunity that we have to be living on this planet. The vitriol being shouted at us by people that we really love and should be loving, and that should be loving us, is so incomprehensibly beneath us all as human beings that it's just embarrassing.
I want to thank Henry Gross for spending 2.5 hours with me. I don't think that's ever happened in my life with an interview, but it was really enjoyable and time well spent. This is an 11-parter with Henry Gross. Go back and watch the older videos. He's a fascinating man. Whether this guy would be like your mailman or a guy who had hits in the 70s, it doesn't matter. He's still an interesting guy. He's still got a lot of life in him. And you'll also see some segments from Henry that we haven't featured in this series, in an upcoming series that we're going to have where we ask, let's say, 5 to 10 artists the same question. Most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you on stage. Did you ever have a groupie where, stage fright? We're going to ask a whole bunch of artists the same question, and Henry will be part of that as well.